Governor Reagan, welcome to Election 80. Leadership is a quality the American people are demanding from a president. Many Americans feel we are not receiving strong, effective leadership today. How would you define leadership?
Well, that's not as easy as it sounds. There have been great leaders throughout the world who have been able to get followers behind them, and they've been evil men who've led them in wrong causes. And we usually think of leadership, however, in those who lead the people in the right direction. I think that one of the main essentials for leadership is communication. We find that if we look back on men, presidents here in the United States, or men overseas, men like Winston Churchill, we find so often that we remember them in years later, and they're known better in history and more familiar for things they said rather than for the actual deeds they might have performed. So I think it is a case of being able to communicate to a people and persuade those people of the direction they want to go. Now, good leadership, of course, means having a belief in basic principles, moral principles, and things that are worthwhile and for the good of the people you are trying to lead, and then persuading those people of the course they must follow in order to achieve those.
To help further clarify your perspective and view on that, who would you consider the three most effective leaders in history, and why?
In all of history? Well, one had to be Moses, and the next had to be Jesus of Nazareth. I don't know whether I could come up with a third to even mention in connection with those two. But if you take the story of Moses and his leadership of children of Israel, and of course we have seen the story of a 33-year-old man who didn't own anything to speak of, had no extensive education, formal education in the way that we think of it today, simply became an itinerant preacher, probably never traveled in a circle more than 100 miles across, wasn't an ordained minister, didn't have a pulpit, and yet in 3 years established principles that have had more effect for 2,000 years on mankind than all the rulers and all the teachers and all the admirals and scholars who ever lived. Having said those two, I don't know whether I can come up with a third. If we were just talking more modern day leaders and so forth, we would get into the area of men like Churchill, men like our Washington and Lincoln, and yes, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who, whether we agree now with the things that he did, was able to persuade the people of this country in a time of great distress, the Great Depression, to support him in the programs that he was taking forward, and he was a great war leader.